Well, good afternoon, and thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Brian Freedman. I'm the chairman of the Government Affairs Division and appreciate you spending some time for this one-on-one with Morgan's Point Mayor Michel Bechtel. Many of you know Mayor Bechtel. He has over 50 years of experience in the oil and gas industry and over 40 years leading his own exploration company. Has a long list of achievements and recognitions, but of those, I'd like to note that he's on the Ship Channel Pilots Board and also most recently named to the Gulf Coast Protection District. He's the mayor of Morgan's Point, which the city was established in 1822 and then incorporated in 1949. It's the inlet for the Houston Ship Channel and also the home to the Barber's Cut Container Terminal. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mayor Bechtel to the stage.
Good afternoon.
Mayor, it's great to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Well, hey, to kick it off, I was hoping you might spend a few minutes just sharing a little bit about your background and experience, both in the in private industry and also as a leader in our community.
All right, a little background. First of all, I'm a coon ass from South Louisiana. That's a surprise, I'm sure. I was born in New Orleans, 1948, back in the Stone Age. I grew up in St. Bernard Parish, which is downriver from New Orleans, and basically grew up in the swamps and marshes, hunting, fishing, trapping, shrimping, doing normal coon-ass stuff. And my father, the Bechtel side of me is Alsatian, and he grew up in New Orleans. My mother was from a little town in France south of Normandy, and she was naturalized in 1943 or so. Growing up in the parish, just pretty normal blue-collar area, and graduated from Chalmette High School. What else? First one in my family to go to college. I ended up going to LSU in New Orleans and graduated with a bachelor degree in geology and geophysics in 1970. And after 3.5 years or so in the working for a major oil company, I ended up going back to graduate school and I got my master's degree in petroleum geology from then the University of New Orleans. As Brian mentioned, I've been in the oil patch now for over 50 years and formed my own exploration company in the early 1980s. And basically, I've been an independent oil man wildcatter for a long time. Let's put it that way. I'm now, I guess, considered one of the dinosaurs in the oil patch. What else you want to know? As an independent oil guy, we sort of wear a lot of hats. Although I'm a geologist, geophysicist, I'm also a half-ass engineer, landman, lawyer, accountant. Whatever has to be done in a small exploration company, you got to learn how to do it. And it's been a hell of a career. Still active, still looking for partners to do some things over in Louisiana. We're mostly active in South Louisiana, and we do a little bit in Southeast Texas, but we're in that country across over there to the east, Louisiana. That's where I operate. Came to Texas in 1980, so I've been Texanized. Settled in Clear Lake. Spent 20 years in Clear Lake watching it grow and grow and grow. And a little over 20 years ago, we were looking for some property, some acreage. We had horses, so we were looking for an equestrian property, and I ended up finding an old unfinished horse barn over in Morgan's Point. And we ended up buying that property, and I built it out and eventually built the house and barn, car barn. So now I got a compound over in Morgan's Point that I operate out of. 3 daughters grew up in Clear Lake. All of them went to Clear Lake High School. They're all band nerds. And now they all married, and I got 8 grandchildren. So I'm really converted to a Texan now. I have a ranch. I got cattle. I got horses, cowboy boots, but I don't have any cowboy hat. So,
and a beautiful
that's
pickup
me
truck.
in a summary there, right there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I didn't know your daughters went to Clear Lake High School, and as a proud Clear Lake graduate myself, go Falcons. And that's good to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What, and to that, Mayor, I know you're, and you kind of hit on this, just running an exploration business and leading that team, all the things you have to do. Can you talk a little bit about how you take that experience and apply it to what you're doing in your public service life? Because not only as mayor of Morgan's Point, but all of these different projects that you know, it seems like every time you turn around, you're leading a committee on something, a study on something, working some project. Can you talk a little bit about that and some of the things that you're doing with those?
Sure. Basically, even in the exploration business, I'm a small business owner. I've never had. We probably peak at 10 employees. We use a lot of consultants and stuff, but I'm a small business owner and rancher, so I'm always worried about the bottom line. That's a good thing for a politician to bring to the table, I think. I'm very comfortable with analyzing and making decisions and get the job done. I think that's another plus. The other thing I'm good at, just to say how good I am, is I got some good employees on the professional side here. Most of our people in the company have been with me a very long time. And I want to say the same thing about city staff. City staff is very, very competent, and all of them are long-term, and that makes all the difference. That's the important stuff. That's what a businessman, I guess, brings to a government municipality. Was when I got there was badly in need of management, let's say.
And I think that's recognized, right? Because it seems like every new board that's created, you're at the top of the list of folks trying to get engaged and on. And to that, one of the things that was created in the state legislature was the Gulf Coast Protection District, which is probably the biggest deal that not enough people have heard about. Maybe that's how I'll phrase it. And so can you take a few minutes and walk our members and folks watching, walk them through what the sort of history of the Gulf Coast Protection and some of the coastal barrier protection efforts, what the new board does, what you see their role as. Can you just dive into that and explain it to our folks and to me?
Sure. First of all, the Gulf Coast Protection District was created by Senate Bill 1160 in the most recent legislative session. Senator Larry Taylor and Representative Dennis Paul, who are very familiar to the local guys over there around the Clear Lake area, they carried the bill for us, and basically it set up the non-federal local sponsor responsible for financing, construction, operation, and maintenance of the coastal barrier, which is going to be the largest public works infrastructure project in the history of the United States. Can't stress that more. It's a big deal, really is. The coastal barrier goes back to, I think most people heard about the Ike Dike over the years. And that was, and the father of the Ike Dike was Dr. Bill Merrill down at Texas A&M Galveston. He was the key player. He came up with the concept as he sat in his old building down on the Strand after Hurricane Ike, which is now 13 years ago as of 2 weeks maybe. Um, and he came up with the idea that, we need to stop the storm surge, and the place to stop it is at the shoreline, at the coast, where it's the smallest. And that was the idea that then grew and grew. Of course, it's look back right now, it's been 13 years. I haven't been involved that long, but I've probably been involved close to a decade with Dr. Merrill. But he's the father. He's the guy that came up with the concept. The Senate Bill 1160, it basically set up a board of directors, 11 members. The governor made 6 appointments. The 6 appointments would be Bob Mitchell of Bayhep, who I'm sure is familiar with everybody down there. Roger Gunther from Port Houston. Sally Bacco from the city of Galveston. And Michael Vander Snick, who's a VP at Lyondale Basell, and Lori Trawick, and myself. That's the 6 governor appointments. The other 5, there's a total of 11 directors for the district. The commissioner's court in the 5 counties, that are part of the district, is going to be Jefferson, Orange, Galveston, Chambers, and Harris. 2 of those counties have their commissioner's court have made their appointments. Billy Combs, Commissioner Combs, former mayor of Beach City over in Chambers County. And now Galveston, I just got a text this morning. Bo Quiroga from Galveston is going to be Galveston County's appointment. Pretty impressed with the board that they put together. There's a lot of expertise and a lot of varied viewpoints, let's say, I think that will come together on that board. The legislation, Senate Bill 1160, also provided taxing authority and eminent domain authority to the district. And certainly in a project this size, that's going to be around for a long time, that's a very necessary part of it. And the question for the board is, how are we going to use that and when we're going to use it? The district will be responsible on the financial side of it for a minimum of 35% of the construction part of the project and we're still going after federal funds. If we do score the federal funds, it's going to be 65% federal, 35% local. In addition, the district would be responsible for all of the operation and maintenance costs for the next 50 or 60 years of operating the coastal barrier. And looking at that, that's where the taxing authority is going to have to come into the picture. Anticipating that, however, though, a few of us started looking at possible alternative funding possibilities. And a group of the small cities in Southeast Harris County, and we also picked up League City over in Galveston, participated with us, and we raised $100,000. And we hired a group out of California, and they came up with an idea of utilizing the financial markets and resilience bonds the whole idea was, how can you monetize a project like a coastal storm surge barrier? Everybody understands a toll road. You build the road, you charge people to travel on it, and that's how you pay for that infrastructure. What we were trying to get to, is there any way that we could basically monetize a project like the coastal barrier? And I believe they have come up with the concept. The next thing we're going to have to do, say phase 2, is going to be, the district is going to have to decide who's going to be in the risk pool, and how do you actually collect the funds to pay for the infrastructure. Resilience bonds, and I'm wandering around here, it's hard to explain without pictures and more waving my hands, but basically you're going to look at protection after the infrastructure is built. The risk there is less than the risk is today without the infrastructure. So the delta between your risk towers is what you can monetize in the financial markets. We need a lot more work on it, but we're trying to look at other things so we don't have to just go to the taxing authority portion of it. I think that's going to be important.
Yeah, I agree. I always, and correct me if this is a wrong way to look at it, but I always looked at it as, Hurricane Ike was a billions and billions of dollar impact to our region in reconstruction and rebuilding. And the storm surge protection issue is, solving that is a lot cheaper than having another Ike. And
yes, Ike, the official numbers that I saw was 38 billion.
Yeah.
And 30 billion of that was directly due to surge. So that's, yes, it'll pay for itself. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and I'm not nearly the accomplished businessman that you are, sir, but I recognize that as a pretty good deal. But just a big thank you on behalf of the chamber. I know you have been working hard on it. The Bob Mitchell and the Bayheb folks, a number of other leaders in the community. The Clear Lake Chamber has been an outspoken supporter of the efforts that have been ongoing with this project, because everybody recognizes how big of a deal it is. So thank you for serving on that board and helping drive what's going on with it, and making sure that we're making prudent decisions with how we're going forward with
One
it.
of the other things, if I can, popping into my mind here on the backside, is that we're going through the normal core process right now, as far as we're looking at the chief's report from the Corps engineers in August 27th or so. And then we're going to have to go to Washington and try to get appropriations out of Congress in the WRDA bill in 2022. That's the normal structure. And then the Corps of Engineers, who are going to be definitely involved in building it, they basically go every year through the budget process to get additional funds from the federal side of the equation, as far as building the construction part of it, I guess. A lot of money involved. It's going to be in the billions overall for the state of Texas. 35%, and if you've read, a lot of the estimates in the Chronicle and all are up there in the $26 billion range, but a lot of that is not in the district's area, in our 5-county area. I would think our real numbers somewhere going to be around $15-16 billion, of which the state is going to be responsible for, say, 35% of that. Also, with the proposed plan that's on the table by the Corps engineers right now, there's a lot of things that we think needs to be strengthened. Let's call it the Texas Preferred Plan. They're proposing natural sand dunes. We're proposing fortified sand dunes. They want to leave San Luis Pass open on the west end. Dr. Merrill thinks it's necessary that we put gates at San Luis Pass to keep the water from going into West Galveston Bay and coming in the backside of the city of Galveston. There's also some questions about the design of the gates. The current proposal on the table, dual gates, and the size of it sort of has generated some comments from the ship channel pilots. So in the end, if we alter some of that plan, we may be responsible for, say, the upgrades on the local side of the equation. So the Texas preferred plan, we may be having to put up more dollars on our side of the equation. So a lot of things happening there.
Yeah, and that's why even more so that I appreciate your leadership on the board and helping drive some of those decisions, because they're big discussion points that have a tremendous amount of expertise that go into them, and so appreciate that. If I can subtly transition us to state legislature, right? We finished the regular session. We're in special session. I think uniquely. Can you talk a little bit about local issues that you were watching and kind of what, if there were any big notable things from your end that have an impact locally with the Clear Lake community, Morgan's Point community, and our region?
Certainly, the big thing in the last session was the Senate Bill 1160 and setting up the Gulf Coast Protection District. That was number one. Number two, for the last number of sessions, we've seen it. And it's basically been the local authority argument of the state targeting municipalities and county governments and trying to cut back and absorb some of the local authority to the state level. There was a lot of bills filed, and luckily a lot of them died. But that's an ongoing thing. Let's see what else would be property taxes. There's always a lot of talk about cutting property taxes. I argue that the approach ought to be to look at homestead exemptions. If you look at the numbers, you really want to make an impact to the rooftops. 72% of Texans live in incorporated areas. There's 1,200 plus cities in the state of Texas. Only 18% of the cities in Texas actually give a homestead exemption. It's an option. And so you got 80 plus percent of the cities don't give homestead exemptions. You can make it mandatory. It's also an option as far as the amount. 20% is the max, and most of our local cities around in our area are at that 20% max, but you can increase the homestead exemption. That would be something I think that would directly impact the taxpayers and would impact everybody pretty much across the board. I've been arguing that to a lot of the state senators and state reps, but it's gone nowhere. I'm nobody, so they don't really listen to me. But that's the approach I would take. That's important. The other big deal is public safety. There's a lot of things happening in Austin right now that they're looking at in response to what's going on in some of the counties. Catch and release, that's bad. That's stupid. Okay, so you're going to get me on my soapbox here, and I'm trying not to go there. So
I think, my big, those are all, I think, very important issues, and they've been a subject of robust discussion at the state level. One of the things I'd like to remind all of the folks watching and our chamber members is that we have an active government affairs group. We partner with BAHEP and a number of other groups on our state legislative agenda every other year for the legislative session. so that there's an alignment and consistency on our voice when we're advocating for certain issues at the state level and talking about those. And Mayor, I know I've seen you in those meetings extensively talking about the issues important to cities, but every industry, and so would invite our members to be engaged with that and reach out to me or Sherry at the chamber if they have any issues that are of significance to them in their industry. Mayor, we're starting to run out of time, so my final question to you, and maybe the most important one I'll ask, is can you share with our membership about why municipal and local government is so important to them?
Well, you start off, it's closest to the people. We protect you from the state legislature. How about that? That ought to win me some friends. Most of the city officials are your neighbors. Their kids go to school and play ball with your kids. You run into them at church, at the grocery, at the gas station. Most of them are volunteers, and I'm really gearing this towards the small cities. They're public servants. They're true public servants. They're good. Most of the people that I've been exposed to in my local politics here, I'm pretty impressed with. And when you get down to it, the municipal government, the most important things, they got to keep the water running, the toilets flushing, they got to pick up the garbage and the trash, protect the community, fix the streets. It's the meat and potato issues. The quality of life is really governed, I think, more so on the local level than it is dictated by up the chain of command there.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
It does, and very well said. You know, somewhere along the line, I picked up that the mark of a really effective community is how well the intersection of business, government, nonprofit, and academia come together, and then we're all working together. And that's certainly taken place in Morgan's Point and in the greater Clear Lake region. We are very fortunate to have great elected leaders like you, sir, and business leaders and folks that are training the next generation and helping folks who need a little help. So appreciate you taking the time, Mayor, and visiting with us. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank our sponsor, CenterPoint Energy, for their generous sponsorship of this series. Would also like to note a few upcoming events that you might be interested in. August 3rd, we have City Connections with Kemah Mayor Carl Joyner. August 11th is our Business After Hours. August 19th is the Chamber's Business and Wellness Expo. And August 25th is the General Membership Luncheon, where we will have a legislative panel with Senator Larry Taylor and then state representatives Greg Bonin and Dennis Paul. For more information about those and a number of other events that are going on in the Chamber, please check the Chamber's website. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.